The going extinct legacy media is preparing for the collapse of MSNBC and CNN. Folks, we've got the stats, we've got the numbers. We'll show you what's happening and why it's all over but the crying for the legacy media. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we as ever endeavor to explain entertainment. Keeping you ahead of the culture curve is what we do. And for many out there, they find entertainment in watching the cable news channels that give them what they want. They serve up their propaganda, they serve up their politics, and give them what they are wishing to see and hear, the reality in which they wish to live. MSNBC and CNN are, though, at the very end, I believe, of their lifetimes, with ratings in decline, and that's about to accelerate. I want to show you why quickly. Before we do, here is Hillary Clinton on Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow is about to go from 5 days to 1 day. It is the end of MSNBC. I'll show you definitively. When you leave this video, you're going to know. And folks, as we get ready to dive in, click the like button. Here's what they're putting out there for MSNBC. Hillary Clinton says, if you put out propaganda, as she defines it, jail time for you.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence. Because
so there you go, folks. That's what they're putting out there on Rachel Maddow, and the people love it. Well, some people, a few people, enough people to keep MSNBC afloat. But float it will do no more because Rachel Maddow is heading out the door. This from Deadline. Ted Johnson has it. MSNBC to debut new nighttime lineup week of May 5th. So we are now on the countdown, the final countdown. MSNBC's new nighttime lineup will debut the week of May 5th with a 7 p.m. Eastern show, The Weeknight, starting that evening, and Jen Psaki's Circle Around. No, I kid, that's not the name of it. It's not Circle Back. 9 p.m. Eastern show, The Briefing, launching the following night. The Briefing will be replacing Rachel Maddow. The schedule also marks the end of Rachel Maddow's return to a 5-night-a-week schedule, as she has been doing for the first 100 days of the Trump administration. She's announced a series of personal appearances in May for her book, Prequel, An American Fight Against Fascism. Now, as Rachel Maddow gets ready to promote her book, she is also going to be watching the end of MSNBC, I believe, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Maddow returning to a 1-night-a-week schedule on Monday. Psaki will fill the slot on Tuesdays through Fridays. The changes are the first major overhaul under new MSNBC president Rebecca Cutler. All right, folks, let's look at why this is devastating to MSNBC and truly the end, and I'm not being hyperbolic. Out of Adweek, it says Thursday, April 17, evening cable news ratings. These are the most recent ratings we have. The Five and Rachel Maddow continue to lead their respective networks. Let's take a look at this. Let's go down here. This is by Mark Mochiro. And we're in the demo because the demo is what matters. The demo, that's the people between 25 and 54, according to these statistics. And those are the people who buy things. And, well, you need the people who buy things because that's why the advertisers are paying to run their commercials. So those people will buy things. Now, if you're not part of the demo, that's fine. We're not being negative towards you, but the demo is what they're looking for. All right, in the demo, pay a close attention to this. On the Fox News channel, which is basically now all of cable news, you've got Kane at 4 p.m. with 380,000 in the demo. The Five has 514,000 people in the demo watching. Brett Baer has almost 300,000. Ingram does have 300,000. Waters has 366. Hannity drops off to 316. Gutfeld pops back up to 378,000 people watching in the demo. Okay. Now, if we were outside the demo, it'd be millions because cable news skews older. However, take a look at CNN. On the CNN side of this, they barely break 100,000 on any show whatsoever, and some shows do not. They're already essentially a zombified cable news network. Basically, they're just there trying to gain eyeballs in airports. That's it. CNN is done for. It has no cultural relevancy. It is out the door. Jake Tapper, who fancies himself someone who has sway with the American people, has 154,000 at his best watching him, which, by the way, would be less than many of your favorite YouTube channels per day. MSNBC is not much better, except, ladies and gentlemen, when we go to Maddow. Maddow is the one and only time that MSNBC manages to find themselves above 200,000 in the demo. In other words, Rachel Maddow is the only time that MSNBC is able to pay for the advertisers, one would assume. Maddow gets 212,000 people in the demo. And then she leads into O'Donnell, who gets a bump from that, 141,000. If not for her, O'Donnell might not even make 100. So you can see how important it is that Rachel Maddow be at MSNBC, and yet she will not be in just a few days. Out of the Associated Press, Jen Psaki stepping up for MSNBC as Rachel Maddow returns to once-a-week schedule. This is by David Bowder. It says Jen Psaki is stepping up not to a podium, but to MSNBC's flagship time slot. Flagship. We're going to go down because you've already heard much of this. There's a question that gets asked, though, and I want to read this to you. The Associated Press asks, does going into a time slot identified with Rachel Maddow for so many years affect how you put together your show? Do you have to be cognizant of her audience? Psaki replies, there's only one Rachel Maddow. By the way, that's what MSNBC is so afraid of. That's what the legacy media is so afraid of, because they may be completely wiped out. The left side of the legacy media, completely wiped out of cable news. Gone. Fox, basically the only channel there. She goes on, she's built obviously an incredible connection with the people who have watched for 17 years. Even if I trained at the Rachel Maddow Anchor School, which doesn't exist that I'm aware of, for 5 years, I could never do what she does and how she does it. Oh, hey, MSNBC, are you sweating yet? Listen to these answers. Maybe she's humble, but maybe she's just telling you what's really going to happen. She can't do it. No one can. She says, what I'm taking with me and what I'm trying to apply are a lot of lessons I've learned from her over the past couple of years. One of them being that she works her tail off, and she'll really work her tail off when she's working 1 day a week. This woman came back for 4 days a week, and that was working her tail off. She never rests on the laurels of the success she's had over the course of time. She's pretty fearless about saying what she thinks, and she tells stories that not everybody does. Those things kind of stick with me. We have very different backgrounds. I spent 2 decades working for 2 presidents and a Secretary of State, and have been on more campaign buses than I could ever recall or list for you. Obviously, our show is based in Washington, D.C., which is a difference too. Every day, I'm going to lean into that experience and background to help provide clarity for people who are watching. Folks, to go back to the ratings one more time, if Jen Psaki comes in and performs like the others, look at them. Wallace has 111,000 in the demo. Melber has less than 100,000. Prime has less than 100,000. Hayes barely beats it. If Psaki comes in, and by the way, Hayes is getting a boost because people are tuning in who are Maddow fans early, that extra 20 minutes. So if Psaki comes in and she can't do it, if she can't get the Maddow crowd to join her, then MSNBC could be down there with CNN. You could see MSNBC without Maddow have viewership under the 100,000 demo, show after show after show. Maybe Psaki can get 150, 140. I don't know. If that happens, O'Donnell doesn't break 100, and suddenly MSNBC is down there with CNN. Fox News will be the only cable news channel that's actually doing anything, that actually has any kind of viewership. It's the nightmare scenario for those who thought that cable news was their place that they could not lose because they were part of the legacy media. They were part of the intelligentsia. They had the gatekeepers, and the door had no key to those who had a moderate or conservative viewpoint. This is why, by the way, that they are fighting, struggling, doing everything they can to get into the new media, into YouTube, into podcasting. That's why Michelle Obama is doing a podcast, for crying out loud, because they've lost. Late night is collapsing. Cable news is collapsing. People don't want to be perusing propaganda anymore. And while Hillary Clinton says anything that's not part of her propaganda, I suppose, is jail-worthy. We'll see how that goes. One thing's for sure, cable news is about to be unratings-worthy. And that is not a good place for them to be, because their cachet, their sway with the American public completely gone away. People are looking for different places, for different personalities, for different people to tell them what's happening. And that, I think, is a good thing. A diversity of viewpoints, excellent. Get out there and find them, ladies and gentlemen. You won't find it on MSNBC. You won't find it on CNN. And, well, people have their opinions on Fox News. I will hold mine, but I'll tell you this. You will find a really good time on podcasts, whether it be Megyn Kelly or Joe Rogan. Heck, get out there to the lefties and go over to the Young Turks, wherever you want to go, folks. Get over there to Timcast. Get over there to the PBD. We could go through them all. Folks, the bottom line is the diversification of media and media consumption has happened. And now the legacy media, which was built on this idea that they were the heirs apparent of Cronkite. And because they were the heirs apparent of Cronkite, you couldn't fight with them. You couldn't break through. They had a barrier that was indestructible. They chose what would be the conversations in the digital town square. They chose what would be on your TVs. They chose what would be broadcast into your homes and into your office buildings. And that system has completely broken down. They thought they could control it. They thought they could control the internet. And I think one different election, and I'm not trying to be partisan or political here, but one different election, they would have gone towards a more Chinese sort of system, or Germany, or the UK, and watch what's happening over there today. They would have gone that way, but they were not quick enough. And as a result, the ability to speak out, the ability to espouse your true beliefs, the ability to maintain freedom of speech, not only in your home, hunkered down in your bunkered basement, but also anywhere you please, that has been freed all over the internet. You can say what you want. You can be offensive because any position you take, which is worthy of being taken, probably offends somebody. And therefore, you should be allowed to offend. And that is what is happening. And that is what is winning. And that's why MSNBC and CNN are about to go away. Now, will they still be on TV? Yes, probably. Will they still have the same personalities? No. Because what will happen is that as the ratings begin to spiral, and that's happening on CNN and MSNBC, but as that spirals and as they become more of an octogenarian legacy channels, as that happens, advertising revenue decreases. They can no longer afford big personalities, people that they know. They let go of the Wolf Blitzers. They let go of the Jake Tappers. Maddow's down to 1 day a week. This will continue, and you enter into the death spiral, and they become more irrelevant and more irrelevant and more irrelevant. Will they be on cable? Sure. Will they be on streaming, however, as a significant force? And that's where the media is going. Streaming. Will they be there? Will they be significant? Well, go check out their numbers on YouTube. I would say that they're already rather irrelevant. And that is going to accelerate. And that is why the war has largely been won by the moderates and by the conservatives. You can find them on podcasts. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on the Green Machine. You can find them in the places that are now at the forefront of the American consciousness. And that, folks, is a great way to start the day to hear, I believe, that partisanship is on its way out. All right, folks, help us shout out this video. Send it to the heavens by clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And folks, we cannot wait to have you for the Pro Show if you're watching this video at the time of release. The Pro Show on at noon is Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon Eastern. And if you'd like to tune in to the Pro Show live in the evenings, we do a 9 p.m. show Eastern, Mondays and Wednesdays. It's a joy that you came our way. Until the next time we have the honor of spending time with you again, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Hey, Floral, guess what?
You put a fork in Pro's microwave again.
No, that was yesterday.
I don't know that what.
Oh, I've decided to give up on torturing Jonas.
What? Why? In the same way the cat sleeps like 20 hours a day, that was like your purpose.
I know, but I've decided there's bigger fish to fry.
Okay.
Like Lorne. I mean, think about it. Everybody loves him. He's a fan favorite, and frankly, he has almost no weaknesses I can find. Except that he's really smart.
So, you want to annoy the one panelist without a single flaw, because he's smart.
Yeah, like that winged statue at that fancy Paris museum thingy. I want to break the one thing that everyone loves most.
Right. So, kind of like the opposite of Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to see her all the time at family reunions anyway.
You get to see Rachel Zegler?
Yeah. She's a total troll. Lives under a bridge, harasses billy goats, the whole 9 yards.
It all makes sense now.
Speaking of which, maybe she'll get me. Okay, call her on my. I'm gonna call her and see if she'll be in the next Indiana Jones. She should be the next Indiana Jones. That'll totally destroy Lord. He loves Indiana Jones.
Oh, that's cruel.
Hey, Rach. I've got a cool idea for you that involves a whip and snakes.
I love that description. It's perfect.
I know, right? Weird, as we always say.